Here is part 3 of my 2017 NFL season recap. In the last episode, I talked about the Jets, Buccaneers, Bears, 49ers, and Raiders. And in this episode, I'm going to continue talking about the teams that missed the playoffs, as I'm going to talk about, in order, the Miami Dolphins, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Washington Redskins, the Green Bay Packers, and the Arizona Cardinals. So here we go. So first up is the Dolphins, and I always love the hype that this team always get, and I'm always like, no, they're overrated, and they prove it exactly to me every single year pretty much. So after going 10-6 the year before making the playoffs, of course losing Ryan Tannehill for the at near the end of the season, going one and done, they had a lot of expectations going into this year, but then Ryan Tannehill had another injury, and he was forced to miss the season again for the second year in a row. So, of course, instead of doing the smart idea and sticking with Matt Moore, since he's a cheaper option and he's been with the Dolphins since 2011, so he knows the system good, no, they decided to waste $10 million and bring in Jay Cutler to be the starter. Oh my god, that is so stupid. If you're going to bring someone in, you should have brought Kaepernick in, because he would have been cheaper and he's much better than Cutler. But of course, the Dolphins signed Cutler. And at the beginning of the season, that offense looked terrible. That defense actually looks pretty good. And before you know it, after 6 games, they're 4-2. They're still in the mix in the playoff hunt. Matter of fact, after that week, they were right in the playoff bracket, if I remember correctly, after my week 6 picks or whatever. But then they would go on to lose 4 or 5 straight in a row or something like that. They won 2 in a row, I believe, but other than that, they just really could never recover. They finished 6-10, which, no shit, I'm not surprised at all about that. Matter of fact, I think I even picked them to go 5-11 or something like that this year, so I'm not off the mark. And at the end of the season, their offensive stats, as you see, are terrible, except for passing offense, which is just slightly under the league average in top tier. But of course, that was probably from passing a lot. 29th in rushing yards, of course. That's what happens when you don't use Jay Ajayi right, and then you trade him like a bunch of idiots to the Eagles, and now he has a Super Bowl to rub it in your face. That defense was just okay. It has a lot of work to go through, unfortunately, for them. So going into the draft, there needs to be one thing that needs to be decided. Are they going to stick with Ryan Tannehill or not? Because they owe him a lot of money, and he's been season-ending injuries 2 straight years in a row. He hasn't played since December of 2016. Now, they decided to keep him, which might be the best thing for him. But I think the Dolphins, you really should, maybe in day 2 or 3 of the draft, should draft a QB. And for 2 reasons. One, Matt Moore, although he's a solid backup, he's in his 30s, and he's been with the Dolphins since 2011, so his contract is either going to be up, or if you resign him, it's going to probably be very expensive. Because also, don't forget, if you're in the league for a long time, your minimum contract, is $1 million. So you might want to draft someone to replace him as someone cheaper, and also maybe to challenge Ryan Tannehill as a starter, perhaps, because Ryan Tannehill, he's been just okay, and not playing the last 2 seasons is not really good for your chances to be the starter. And another thing they gotta wonder if what they're going to do about Ndamukong Suh, because now he's entering year 4 of his contract. He hasn't lit the world on fire with the Dolphins, and they owe him a lot of money. Matter of fact, I think I remember correctly when they signed him back in 2015, it was the highest paid contract for a defensive player in the league at the time. So, yeah, they're going to owe him a lot of money eventually, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try maybe like restructuring or something like that. So the main thing that the Dolphins are going to have to do in 2018 is hope to God Ryan Tannehill can actually not get injured and play, because if he does, this team could probably turn around a bit, although I still think they're going to be mediocre. But that still might be enough to maybe make a playoff run in the AFC East, since everyone knows outside the Patriots, it's going to be between the Dolphins, Bills, and Jets to find out who's going to be the second team in that division, maybe make the playoffs. Since remember, the last 2 years, the AFC East has had a wild card team and almost had in the Jets in 2015. So maybe the Dolphins can turn around, because I don't really think the Jets are going to do much. The Bills I thought were terrible. So the Dolphins, if they can get Ryan Tannehill healthy, maybe get some work on that offense, maybe they could actually be a wild card team next year. But who am I kidding? These Dolphins are overrated as always, so they probably will miss the playoffs again, and maybe Adam Gase will be fired. Then we get to the Bengals, and oh boy, there was a lot that wasn't expected of this team this year. I actually did thought that they would maybe bounce back a bit, maybe be in the playoff hunt. But unfortunately for the Bengals, that was not the case at the beginning of the season. Their first 2 weeks of the season where they didn't score an offensive touchdown at all. Remember when they got shut out by the Ravens and such? It was so bad that they fired their offensive coordinator after that game. But then after they just barely lost to the Packers on the road, they went on to win 2 in a row in quite convincing fashion. And I was starting to think, maybe the Bengals will turn it around. Maybe they could indeed challenge for a playoffs run. But nope. That didn't happen. They were terrible pretty much the entire season. They had a losing season once again, missed the playoffs, and after 2 games left in the season, we heard all those reports that Marvin Lewis would finally get fired and maybe stick around as GM or something like that. But nope, the Bengals would go on to knock out both the Lions and the Ravens from the playoffs and such. And I guess that was just enough to somehow not only keep Marvin Lewis on the team as their coach, but give him a contract extension? What the fuck is up with this? Man, Marvin Lewis is so lucky. He should have been fired after 2008. He should have been fired after 2010. And he should have been fired after this last season. But nope, he somehow still has a job. What is up with this? He needs to go somewhere else, and he's still a good coach, so maybe he can help revive some other team. But come on, man, it's time with the Bengals has got to go. But nope, they brought him back in. As you can see, their offensive stat was terrible. They couldn't get anything going offensively. Their defense, though, was still solid, except for that Russian defense, which was terrible, 3rd worst in the league. So, oh boy, I really don't know what to say about the Bengals. I don't really think there's anything they can do really in the draft to fix any of this. This might be a multi-year process for them. That's not necessarily one thing that's going to be a big fix or anything like that. So really for the Bengals, I think they're just going to go backwards and maybe even challenge the Browns. Give a challenge to the Browns to maybe for them to move up to 3rd place perhaps. And after that, maybe Marvin Lewis should finally be fired. But other than that, I don't really see what else is there to do for the Bengals to improve. I can't even think of what they could do in the draft. That's how bad they are across the team. Next up is the Redskins, who once again shot themselves in the foot at the beginning of the offseason when they did not re-sign Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal. Instead, they decided to franchise him for God knows why, because then if he does a good season 2017, then you have to sign him to a long-term deal that will require even more money for crying out loud. So they shot themselves in the foot, and they let both Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson go. And of course, the rest of their offensive weapons were not really good at all. So you got wondering, is the Redskins going to fall back into the division and not be a good team? So after they got their asses kicked against the Eagles the first week, they went on to beat the Rams in Los Angeles. Then they destroyed the Raiders on Sunday night. And before you know it, at the halfway point of the season, they're surprisingly 4-4. They're right there in the mix for the playoffs in the NFC side. But they just couldn't hold up in the end. They ended up finishing 7-9, their first losing season since 2014. And they just could not really get anything going for them. Offensively, they still were pretty good. Well, not pretty good, but good at least. Especially in passing, which is unbelievable that Kirk Cousins was able to have another solid year despite the fact he had no good receivers pretty much. And that running offense was terrible. They still haven't really found their replacement for Alfred Morris. But that defense is not really good whatsoever. They have a really good pass defense, probably thanks to Josh Norman, despite missing a bunch of games. But they had the worst run defense in the league. If they want to have any shot to be competitive in the NFC East, where you got to deal with the Eagles, who can run effectively, the Cowboys with Zeke, you got to do better than that. That was just terrible. So, of course, the main thing you had to wonder about with the Redskins going into in the offseason is what are they going to do about Kirk Cousins? Well, they've decided to trade for Alex Smith. Now, of course, that trade's not official till early March when the offseason officially begins. So that deal they made with him is not there yet. He's still on the Chiefs until then. So once that deal is done and Alex Smith's on the Redskins, they most likely should let Kirk Cousins go to free agency, and he could be a very big commodity for a bunch of teams that desperately need a quarterback that can't get one in the draft pretty much high. So now that that quarterback question has been resolved for next while, they need to fix that running game, and they need to fix that run defense. Because Alex Smith isn't going to get you anywhere if you don't have a solid running game to back him up. And you need to be able to fix that run defense. That was pretty bad. So a running back and someone on the front four or linebacker could be very useful to help them improve. But overall, I don't really think the Redskins are going to be any different than they were this year. Average team that's unfortunately in a very competitive NFC East. That, of course, has the Giants probably going to bounce back next year, and maybe the Redskins could fall down to the bottom of the NFC East again, and you got to wonder if Jay Gruden's going to be on his way out. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. And then we get to the Packers, who once again underwhelmed for the third year in a row, although this time it wasn't really much of their doing, as at the beginning of the season, with Aaron Rodgers, the team was looking pretty good, as no one should be surprised. They were 4-1 and right there in the mix for not only for the NFC North and leading it, they were in the mix for a first round bye possibly at that point. But then Aaron Rodgers went down when they played the Vikings, and they could never really recover with Brett Hundley as their starter. But they were still in the mix. They were 7-6. And Rodgers came back, and of course we all remember what happened in 2013 when they were 5-2. They managed to go 7-1 without him, and then that final game of the season when they beat the Bears to win the NFC North. Here at 7-6, it was not likely for them to win the division, but they still could make a playoff run. But of course, he was very ineffective against the Panthers. He threw 3 interceptions, for crying out loud. They lost to the Panthers, which eliminated them from the playoffs. They decided to bench him for the rest of the season, and they went on to lose the final 2 games to not only miss the playoffs for the first time since 2008, but also get their first losing season in 9 years as well. So, of course, that defense, as you see the stats, not good at all, and that's not really much of a surprise. That offense wasn't really good at all either. But, of course, if Aaron Rodgers was on the team, that would have been dramatically different. But as Rodgers' injury showed, just like in 2013, that one, this defense is not really good. It hasn't been good for the last bunch of years. And 2, Aaron Rodgers masks a whole lot of weaknesses for that team. So, they need to do everything they can in the draft to, 1, provide enough protection for Aaron Rodgers. And they really need to get some running game going, although they're near the middle of the pack, pretty much. But another thing, too, they got to fix that defense, too. Because you can't just keep relying on Aaron Rodgers to save the day when you're down. You got to be able to have a defense that can maintain a lead and such. Now, if Aaron Rodgers comes back healthy, which should be pretty obvious, the Packers could be a big threat to watch in the 2018 season. They could easily bounce back and make it right into the playoff mix once again and challenge the NFC North too. And maybe if they're lucky, maybe get back to challenging for first round bye possibly. So I wouldn't be too much concerned going into 2018 if they're going to miss the playoffs. But you still should be worried about that team being pretty weak without Aaron Rodgers, and they need to do everything in their power to make it so if he goes down again that they could still be in the mix. And finally, in this video, we get to the Cardinals, the first team of the season to have a 500 record at least. And after their very disappointing 7-8-1 finish last year, I thought they were going to bounce back quite good because that team, despite going 7-8-1, overachieved. They were really good stats-wise. They had, I think it was almost a 100-point differential still. They were really, really good, and I thought there was going to be a lot going for them to maybe get back into the playoffs this year. But that did not turn out to be the case whatsoever. Marred with injuries on that offensive side of the ball. Losing David Johnson the first week and then losing Carson Palmer like near the halfway part of the season. The Cardinals were terrible. Yet they somehow, for like the first half of the season, they would lose a game but then win a game. And they were right there still at 4-4 even though they honestly should have had a losing record at that point. And they were starting to falter, but they somehow managed to turn around and stay 500 the rest of the way. They finished 8-8 on a 2-game winning streak, I believe it was. As that defense still played pretty good. In fact, looks like that defense actually might have improved from last year, but that offense was absolutely terrible. And of course, Bruce Arians retired at the end of the year. And the Cardinals are really, unfortunately, setting themselves up to possibly be one of the worst teams in the NFC next year. It really looks that bad. And they brought in Steve Wilkes, or whatever his name is, as their new head coach, and he was the Panthers' defensive coordinator last year, so maybe they can get someone in there that can still maintain that defense, but that offense is just in trouble. So what the Cardinals need to do next year is, I know since they're high up in the draft, they're probably not going to be in the range to get a first-round QB, so they might have to go try and be in the Kirk Cousins market, but for the love of God, Cardinals, you need to finally get that franchise quarterback. I've been screaming this through the rooftops since 2013 when you brought Palmer in. You need to get a franchise quarterback to hopefully be a successor. You didn't do that in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, and now look where you're at. Palmer's gone, and you don't have anyone really to replace him. That's why you should have done it from the very start, like I said. But of course, unfortunately, they're going to be too high in the ranks to get a real stud, possibly, so they might have to just either be lucky and get Kirk Cousins or someone in free agency, which of course still is not the main fix, or maybe they should be, hopefully maybe get lucky enough in the second or third round to find a gem of a QB that turns out to be the franchise quarterback, because if they don't, they're not going to really go anywhere. They also need to get a wide receiver to hope to replace the Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald soon, and they need to get a running back too, since David Johnson can't stop getting injured, and Adrian Peterson, another Hall of Famer, was not really effective at all for the Cardinals outside of that first game, so he's probably going to be gone too. There's just so many problems with that Cardinals offense that it could easily hold them back, and they honestly should most likely have a losing season next year, and I do think they're going to probably be one of the worst teams in the NFC. But if they get a good draft, maybe they can be fortunate enough for them and maybe avoid that, or at least soften the blow. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And tomorrow, hopefully, we'll get to part 4 and the final episode of the teams that missed the playoffs, which will be the Ravens, Chargers, Seahawks, Cowboys, and Lions. So see you then.